the fireside chat with Dr. Coke-Lloyd. But at this time, I would like to introduce to you a lady who needs no introduction. Jamaican writer, mother of 4, she says, advocate for happiness in her life and those around her, enjoys volleyball, netball, bird watching, scuba diving, bike riding, you name it. Passionate about Toastmasters, studied at the University of the West Indies with her BA in communications and MA in teaching. Speak of none other than the effervescent, well-spoken and polished Paula-Anne Porter-Jones. Could you put your hands together and welcome her to address us at this time? Madam.
Good afternoon. How do you do? All right, I'm hearing energy, which is good because you're in the second part of the second half of the second day of a very full conference. Has it been good? Yes. If you think it's been fantastic, let me hear you say amen. Yes. All right. I have been looking at some of the topics in terms of the different discussions. I got the last part of the panel discussion a while ago, and I think the 15 years of experience is showing. And I love the focus for this year. LCTE. What is that? Don't look on the paper. Do not look on documentation. You do it, I see people looking down, no cheating. LCTE. L, which is for? Legacy of change, transformation, and execution. And my topic today is going to help you with that legacy of change, transformation, and execution. And if you will allow me, I'll take some liberty with the intended interpretation and say that there are some things that we may have to change if we need to transform the responses we get from people when we have our meetings and we give our presentations. True or false? So after this, what would have been an hour but is now probably about half hour together, you are to take home the notes and practice and take care of the E in that legacy of change and transformation, which is the execution. So, how many of you have been in presentations, meetings, speeches where you feel like the background picture where you kind of just drab, and yes, you clap the person who's speaking because you're supposed to, but you don't really feel any energy? Hold up your hand for me. Let me see. Yes. And now here's the moment of truth. How many of you have been the speakers in this kind of interaction? And we know that that is not what we want. When we are finished, we want the people to be full of life and color and be engaged and excited about what we spoke about. And if that happens, then you can be sure that they're going to now put into practice whatever it is that we taught them to do or asked them to do or tried to inspire them to do. So what I would like to do is move ahead with the presentation, but a pressing and a pressing. Ayúdame por favor un momento. Let's try this again. There we go. This is what we want. Some life, some energy, some color. And in order for this to happen for the people who are listening to us, we have to bring it. We have to bring it in the way that we talk about what we're talking about. We have to bring it with the way that we look, the colors we choose to wear, how we hold our hands, the way our voices sound. We have to bring it. So today, there are 4 areas that I'm going to be walking through with you. And while I'm giving you the content about how to bring it, I want you to know that in large part it is about you. And that word that the young lady was very specific about on the microphone over there, what she said? Authentic. Because each of us has our own kind of style. And at PAP&A, what we do is we try and find you in all of the content and all of the instructions and the learning that we share with you. So that's my company, PAP&A, Paula-Anne and Associates. And for the last maybe about 15, 20, okay, maybe 30 years, we have been trying to work with persons to find that comfortable space where they can deliver in a way that brings that color and excitement to the people who are listening. So today, what we're going to do is work it out. We're going to pep up our public speaking and make our presentations pop by looking at 4 areas. First is the audience. How are you going to action the audience? Make the audience work for you. Next is how you are going to make sure that the content you have is not just information that you have to give them, but that you've crafted it. And then after that, you want to make sure that when you are delivering, you have energy, that you are a dynamic speaker. And finally, you want to not do all the talking yourself. So you have to figure out how to pull the people in so they are a part of the conversation. Now, I have to be doing all of that today because we are in the second part of the second half of the second day of an information intense interaction. So I'm warning you that you have work to do as well, workshop style, as we go through. Actioning the audience is the first one that we're jumping into. And what this really means is analyzing your audience, which is a term with which you may be more familiar, and then using that information to make what you're talking about more interesting. So in coming here today, I had to do a little bit of research. Middle managers from where? So I hear that there's a Jamaica Observer. Where are you? 2 people? No, let's try again. Jamaica Observer. Thank you. And the one person was loud enough for everyone. Office of the Prime Minister. Yes, yes, hands up so I can see where you are. NHF is inside here. NHT, Digicel, University Hospital of the West Indies. We're in the Pegasus, but the Pegasus is in here too. Where? Pegasus, folks. We have Princess Resorts, Ministry of Agriculture. It's a wide array of entities. And that makes a good mix because this is where you are now going to do some work and share with us. When it comes to actioning the audience, there's a saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you. And you can't care if you don't know, right? So finding out about the audience members is what will help you to figure out how you're going to help them with the information. With you here now, I have thought that perhaps you need to know how to make people not fall asleep in your meetings, true or false? You need to know how to be more impactful when you speak so that you don't sound like background noise, true or false? You need to know how to not only organize the content that you're presenting, but also while you're presenting, give an impression so that your supervisors, those who are above you, think that you are, tell me the words, that you are confident. I hear confident already. Dynamic, yes. What else? Knowledgeable, engaged, that you really have interest in what is going on, and you have to show that with the way that you present. So, as we are figuring out how to do all of that, we're going to start with a very simple exercise at your table. You are going to do a little audience analysis for me, please, of the people who are with you. If you're lucky enough to have another entity at your table, then great, no problem. But with the audience analysis, all it means is that you're going to ask some questions. And if you're doing it in real life for your presentation, then there's a whole number of questions that you could ask. But for us here now, there are just 3 main things. After you know their name, where they work, and the job function, I want you to find out what are 2 top priorities for them. I want you to find out what's the worst thing that could happen to them as they're executing in their role as a manager. And I want you to find out what is the best thing that could happen in their execution of their role. So turn around, person beside you, start asking. Top 2 priorities in your work. What's the best thing that could happen? And what's the worst thing that could happen? Take notes. I know you have paper. One minute gone. 2 more to go. One more minute. What's the worst thing for you that could happen in the execution of your role as a manager, as a supervisor? You would never want this to happen on your watch. And what is the absolutely most awesome thing that could happen? So we're wrapping up in 30 seconds. All right, write the final 2 words on your note. Put that full stop, and then turn back to me. If you are with co-workers, then you probably already know some other information about them, right? Yes. What was the saying? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So now you know something about the person beside you. And if you had to have a team meeting and one of these 3 topics was yours to speak of at this team meeting, how would you make one of these topics connect to the person that you just learned about? So if there's a new overtime policy and you have to talk about it, chances are you would have come to explain what you know. You would have brought the context, you would have brought the information. This is a policy, these are the rules, here you go. You might not like it, but it's so it go. Yes? However, you want when you finish for people to understand and agree with you that this is the best way forward. Because if it's the best way forward for the company, then it's also the best way forward for the team. So the way that you present the information now becomes important. And you should not just start with throwing the policy out there, but you now need to connect the policy to what? What they care about. How do you connect that policy to their priorities? To the things that they would want to happen or the things that they would never want to happen? Take a minute, turn around, and talk the things. So you're not giving a whole speech. You are going to say, may I have your name, please? Katie-Anne. Miss Forbes, I understand that you are interested in fast-tracking your career with this company so that you can move on to one of our subsidiaries in a higher position. Now, there's a way for you to do this that's going to involve a change in how we operate. And that change is the new overtime policy that says that you work actually 3 hours more per week. But what happens is that in those 3 hours, you are now able to gain the experience that you can put on your resume, which will help you as you move in that new direction. Oh, that's so. Can work? Your turn. Turn to the person beside you, pick one of these topics, and connect it to something you just learned about them. Please don't take the 3 minutes deciding which one. Pick one. Run with it. Go. So we have to start with the things that are important to the people and then connect the information and then they pay attention. Two minutes remaining. One minute to go. Find a way to wrap up the conversation now. Speak those final words. Get ready to put on that full stop. Okay, talk to me. How many of you were able to find a way to connect it to what you knew? Raise a hand. Let me see. I kind of like a half hand raise. I see heads nodding. Yes. It might be a little difficult if you are just trying this for the first time on the fly. Some people work better if you have the opportunity to absorb. And then after a while now, then you are able to say, okay, let me try it this way or that way. But do you get it? There's also a term that's popular. What's in it for me? WIFM, WIFM? People are more interested when you show how what you're talking about impacts their lives, their interests, the things that are important to them. So if you are able to just think through your audience, okay? I'm going to present to the board. Who are the board members? This one is always quarreling about X. This one has a particular interest in Y. This one thought that there was an issue the last time I presented, so I know this will be on their mind. How do I know not just step into this board meeting with my usual background and steps and in the way that I normally present, but how do I arrange it so that they see what they are looking for? They hear what works for them. And therefore, their objectives as audience members will be met with what I present. Because when you see and hear that, that's when you pay attention. That's when you don't fall asleep. Now, after you have this information, you have to now figure out how to organize it in a way that works. And that's our next step. We've looked at actioning the audience, and you now know that finding out that information about the audience and using it to present is what will help to keep their interest, or one of the ways. After actioning the audience and you get that information, you want to figure out now how to craft the content. And that word craft is important. What's another word for craft? Create, what else? Tailor, I like tailor, or design, which means we don't just take the information from a report and cut it and paste it and put it on the slides. It means that we don't just sit and think through all the things we want to say and write them down and take them up and read them. It means that we are going to take that information and we're going to pull it apart. And we're going to say, okay, this is what I want at the end. I want the audience members, the people here, to do X or to feel Y. And if that's supposed to happen, let me say this first, and I need to also say this second. But this is harder to do and take longer. No. It's easier for us to just write out what we want to say and read it. But then your public speaking won't be peppy, and your presentation won't pop. You have to craft your content. And when it comes to crafting your content, you want to make sure that there are two things you're doing. First is you're using structure and you're explaining that structure so that people know what to look forward to. There's a term Jamaicans have called puss in a bag. What does that mean? You don't know what's inside. You do not know what's in store. And don't you hate those speeches? You're not quite sure where they're going. You have to wait until they say something to figure out, okay, all right. And we have so many of those. So we understand, but we kind of just have to wait. And oftentimes that wait is too long. So what you want to do as the speaker is organize it and tell people ahead of time, this is what I'm going to do. I told you we have 4 sections. What are they? Actioning the audience, crafting the content. Then there is something else about the delivering with dynamism, and finally, pulling in the people so you know where we're going. And when I finish, I tell you that we're finished with that one and we're moving to the next one. That kind of structure helps to keep people with you and engaged. They know where they are, they feel comfortable, pay more attention. You also want to look at using organizational patterns that work. So if you are speaking to a group, your superiors, about an incident, it's best if you organize it in a way that they can not just know what has happened, but what it means and what the implications are. And there's a popular way of organizing this information, and you say that you say what, so what, and now what. Say it for me. What, so what, and now what. So if you're going to use that pattern, you start by saying the what, which is what is the situation? What is what we call it? Autoclaps. So the pumping system has gone down. It happened at X time, X date. And that is the challenge that we have. Then I'm going to explain to you, so what? And it's not a Jamaican, so what? It is what are the implications of the fact that the system has gone down. So let's look at how that's going to impact our production for the next 2 months. And when you finish looking at the production, you explain, so you reiterate, so the pumping system is down, we know what the implications are, and I'm now going to tell you the now what, which are my recommendations. Now what do we do? So if you have a problem and you have to explain it, that what, so what, now what is a great way to organize it. And at the start, you explain. So I'm going to tell you what the problem is, what it means for us as a company, and what I think we should do in the next 5 months. So people understand where you're going, because you structure the thing, and you've explained how you are going to proceed. There are other such simple ways of organizing information, depending on the type of information, but in my half hour, we can't go through all of them. I'm hoping to pique your interest so that you can now go online and search ways of organizing information. And you know some of them already. Advantages and benefits and step 1, step 2, step 3. So instead of having the information just as one huge mass that you're speaking to, organize it. And at the start, explain, this is how I'm going to proceed. Now, after you've crafted the content in terms of how you organize it, the second part is how it looks on the screen when your presentations need to pop. Because if they look regular and ordinary, there are many ways that you can bore people or we can lose them. When it comes to slides, well, what I'm going to do is show, the next series of slides will be some template slides and some taken from other presentations I've done. And we're going to talk about what works, what you should try to keep in mind. And I know some of you already do this. So if you're in agreement, say yay. If you are having a question or a comment otherwise, you may also go right ahead to the mic. I'm open. When you have your slides, you're crafting your content, simplicity is important. You don't want too much of anything. You want to be able to direct the focus to the important parts that support you, the speaker. So you don't want full paragraphs. You don't want slides full of words from top to bottom. You want phrases that work. And then you want other kinds of content that help to push the important things that are there. You also, therefore, want to pay attention to fonts and font sizes. Look at how lovely those 2 words, next steps, are. You see how they're nice and big? How they jump out at you? How the change in color actually adds some kind of energy to it? Yes. Look at how, if we do this though, you still have the size and the color, but there's a slight difference. You see it, it looks stylish, but it doesn't quite read as easily as the one before. It's easier to read when you use a font that doesn't have all sorts of fancy stuff. This is called a sans serif font. It means no embellishments. S-A-N-S-S-E-R-I-F. So when you're choosing your fonts for presentations and electronic presentations in particular, you want to go for large sizes, you want to use colors, and you want to stay away from fonts that are curly with little things off on the side, etc., so that you can keep that impact bold and easy to identify. Notice how the shapes are nice and bright and draw your attention to the information there, and notice how the information is minimal, because you are the person who's the font of all knowledge. You should be the focus. This is to support you. You also want to be able to have a look at what kind of images you're using. Anybody here uses like clip art pictures in presentations? Yeah, and they're cute, don't? Want to recommend that for the business presentations, you stay with images of real people and real things. Why? Because this is power. Real people and real things evoke emotion. They give a feel. They give a response. And the image that you choose can help out. So let's say this template slide responsibilities, performance goals, collaborations, communication, was being presented to your team at a department meeting, your small department meeting. And you wanted that feel of camaraderie, team spirit, let's get it guys, let's pay attention to these things so that we can be the top performing department. The kind of image that works, I think for this, is an image of a person. Even better if you take a picture of somebody in the department that you think embodies that kind of spirit that you want. Suppose the information is something that has to do with time. It's the same information, but the context is different. We're late in meeting these deadlines. We should have had these sorted out and printed for X date, and now we only have X time. You see how a nice smiling team member won't give that kind of feel. So I've now chosen an image of an hourglass with a little time remaining. And as I go through, the type of image complements the tone, the feel that I want to get from you as I'm talking. Let's say we were talking about this content as standards of our organization. Let's say it's, who is inside here today? Digicel business, but it's not a Digicel business building. Okay, BOJ, any BOJ persons here? But you wanted to speak to this as being important because you are the standard bearer. You wanted to speak to this as being important because this is what is expected of anyone that works with this particular entity. Now, an image of maybe your logo, maybe your building, or what the entity represents will give that kind of feel. So as you go through to help bring the emotion and keep the people in, be careful about the choice of the image because it can make or break. And a smiling picture of just, I don't know, a cartoon person shaking a hand may not support you in the way and give you the kind of power that you can get from real images. The other thing you want to look at is how you're using colors to draw attention to maybe the important thing. So we have 4 core values, but the one we're talking about now, or we have 4 areas that are important to our brand, but what we want to talk about now is the values. And see how we've made the color pop. So I've directed your attention in that particular area. We want to use animation of the slides, but no, I don't mean making the slides flip around and slide in and floop. How many of you do that? We make things slide in, hand up, come, confess, I see some hands. That kind of animation should only happen if it works for the concept that you are speaking to. So let's say you are from, do I see the National Water Commission here? And let's say you were with NWC and you closed one section about the flow, and then you happen to have the transition of the slide flowing like water out. Okay, fine, I can see with that. Like a one time. The challenge is that animations draw attention to themselves as a thing, and you don't want that. You want people to be in the world of your content, the thing that you're talking about. And so as you use animations, my recommendation is you make the information appear that you want them to pay attention to. So here we go again, bold colors, one set of information that I'm talking about first, and then when I'm ready for the other thing to come up, I bring it up over there. One of your presenters did this quite nicely in the previous presentation, Senator Golden Campbell. I saw your points come up as you spoke to them. Because what would happen if she brought all her points up at once? You read the slide, and guess what? We can read faster than she can talk. But how many of us put up all the information one time on the slide? I see some nodding of the head, but people not holding up their hands. I see. So you want to be sure that you control the attention. Otherwise, they read the slides, they're gone to sleep, and you are left alone with the presentation. So we've looked at the fonts, sizes, colors, types. We've looked at using shapes and colors of shapes. And again, animation, making things appear as you speak to them. Brings the interest, helps with the focus, keeps your audience with you. So they don't run off ahead and then are distracted on the phone with Candy Crush while you are still speaking about item number 3 or 4. Bullet points are okay. I want to suggest that you use some of what we have, like icons. Again, visual interest helps to hold attention. So instead of just bullet points, you might want to look for different things that you can use and different ways that you can represent the information. Regular bullet points are good too, preferably if you are combining them with other things and that you bring them up like Senator Golding Campbell did, one at a time. So this is a slide from a presentation I gave about charisma, and that section of the presentation spoke to enhancing passion. How do you do that? Well, you turn up your volume, and we're going to come to that later on to make your presentation pop. How else? Be bigger in the way that you gesture. Have you noticed? I've been doing this and this, not this and this. So be bigger, take up space. How else? Show more expression. And this is a preview because when we come to dynamic delivery, I want you to remember these. But the point here is that you make them appear as you speak to them. Here again, we have bullet points, but not with the bullets, in shapes. So each one has its own space, it has its own interest, it pops. It takes more time, but it holds the attention better. All right, finally, we're going to speak about graphs. And I am sure that as managers, you have many reports with data. True? True. Make sure you are using the right kinds of graphs to represent the data. Do you know which graphs is for which? Which type is for which? What do you use a bar or a pie chart for? Versus a line graph. Any? So when you select the right ones for the right data, the information is immediately clear. People don't have to search hard and try to understand. So your homework includes, because we don't have the time for the detail, Googling easily which charts are better for which types of information. I'll tell you that the pie charts work better when you have all the categories in one whole, and then you can see how much part for each. The bar charts work best when you have different types of categories and you are comparing them. Line graphs show trends over time. And any graph, bar, pie, line that you put up there, take out the information that you don't need. Please don't take the whole chart with all of the numbers and put it up there. Only put the sections that are needed. All right? So you take out unnecessary information, leave the information you're drawing attention to. Use color, simplicity, and use headings that tell a story. So not just productivity, but productivity is better. So your headings for your charts tell a story, and guess what? You are to also tell a story. You are not to look and say, well, weekly task completion under productivity is better was at 20%. Project milestones was just over 80%, because I can see that. I don't need you to tell me. You need to pay attention to what the story is and share the story. What have you learned from this chart instead of telling what can be seen? So those are the details when it comes to crafting the content. And the next one is to deliver with dynamism. Now I've gotten my time check, so I'm going to crunch very quickly. I'm going to jump across the activities that I have for you. Delivering with dynamism means you're paying attention to how you look and how you sound. How many of us inside here are introverts? Meaning you get your energy not from a whole heap of people, but your energy is kind of here. And when you're in rooms and situations with many people, like meetings, it drains you. It pulls away from you. It is good that you can identify this, so you now know the skill you need to master in order to be effective. Because you have to have energy for you and the audience when it comes to presentations and speeches. And where that energy comes from, it shows in your facial expression. So if you have one of those faces that nobody can read, that's a challenge. That's a challenge, because you don't look like you are engaged in it. So you have to figure out how, you see how my eyebrows are up here? And I'm smiling and you can see on my face movement and interest. You have to now start showing with your face changes in content, meaning how you feel about certain things. You have to show with your gestures. Larger gestures bring energy. So here won't work. Repeat gestures won't work. You have to have different kinds of things that you do. And because they're different, they're not predictable, the energy changes. And you also want to take care of the sound. Do you remember the previous slide where I said something about sound? Volume. You have to speak louder. Hands up, soft-spoken persons. So you know you now need to project, not shout. Wait, sorry, hold on. Not shout. You hear the difference between shouting and projecting. And you have to be able to project with your voice that energy, because that now is contagious. Jumping right across, the last thing in the sound is clarity. If you speak too quickly and your words are all connected, it's hard to hear. And then you kind of become background noise. And if you become background noise, then Candy Crush and checking the email and all sorts of other things are now your competition. So your voice, your words must be clear. Use pauses. Change the pitch of your delivery so that we hear emotion, passion, changes in meaning and nuances through your voice. And that is how you deliver with dynamism. And the final part, as they are, I'm sure I'm about to walk up to tell me that's my time, is pulling in the people. Pulling in the people means you're giving your audience things to do. If it's a workshop, it's easy. I can do what I gave you earlier. Turn, talk to the person beside you. Here's an activity, go. But if you're giving a speech or a presentation, you may not have the space, the time to do that. What you can do is use some shortcuts. There are 3 things you want to do to pull in your audience. You want to build anticipation. If you did your audience analysis, you know what they want to hear about. So you use the anticipation to say, I'm going to touch on that later. This is coming up. You want to also look at imagination as the second one. Can you tell a story? I heard Senator Golden Campbell answer a question with a story. And you remember the story, don't you? Yes, it sticks. Because when your right side of your brain is engaged, along with the left side is logic and language and listening and straightforward and OCD people and it must set so and turn so. The right side of your brain is creativity. And that's the one that is stimulated, the side that's stimulated when you tell stories and you use metaphors and you have analogies and the brain has to figure out how to make connections. And guess what? You have 22% more brain recall when you are using the imagination. So you are more effective when you have the wherewithal to do that. And finally, participation. Questions. How many of you have ever considered riding a motorcycle? There you go. Because it's you stop, you think about it, and you have a response. It's either like, no, sir, or it's, yeah, you know, say I want it. But you don't have, usually, who cares? So you want to think through questions, rhetorical questions sometimes. How many of you are 100% sure that your money is safe in the bank? Well, I am from, is Chorvell here? And I'm going to tell you a way where your money is 100% safe. So the question is not for an answer from you, but it makes you think. And you stop and you think and you, You want to be able to also figure out activities that are quite simple. Do you have a wallet on you, sir? Not with you, but you do have your phone. Could you open up your phone for me, please, and show us the first picture inside your gallery? So I'll take you off the hook. But the point is, figuring out activities that are simple to do and that can lead into your content area. It's not everybody that has to do it. You can't just ask a one person. But that now creates interest. So pulling in the people, again, 3 parts. You build anticipation. participation. You use their imagination and you encourage their participation. And that is how you pull in the people, because no lectures, please. You mustn't stand up here for the whole time and all you're doing is sure way to put people to sleep. Ladies and gentlemen, that's pulling in the people, and that is the fourth and final section of how you can pep up your public speaking and make your presentations pop. And it really just requires your practice. You don't have to do everything one time. Little by little, try one in this meeting, try one in that interview, see how it works, get some feedback from your colleagues, and at the end of the day, you will improve. We spoke about how you wish to be perceived as confident, knowledgeable, effective. All of those things work when your speeches and presentations work. Thank you so very much. Go ahead. Question here. Microphones in the aisles. There are online questions as well.
Can I? Yeah. Can I just tell the room that all BAS has to be declared, because I happen to think Paula-Anne Porter-Jones is just an awesome, awesome professional. So I have a problem, and I'm sure there are others who might share it. When I listen to myself speak, I do this all the time. And I usually don't speak from a heavily prepared brief. I do and so who else does the Now, I don't know how to stop it, and I don't know when I'm doing it.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Let me summarize quickly. Space fillers. So some of us say, you know, all the time. And what they do is they provide us with an opportunity to think, and they fill the space so that we don't feel like we look like we don't know what we're saying because we're silent. So the first thing is, it is perfectly okay to be silent while you think of what next to say. It is. The second thing is recognizing when you do it, which is going to require some recording and some help from somebody else. And in your non-important conversations and spaces, backing up a few words and speaking that phrase without the arm. So it's almost like you're teaching yourself to ride without training wheels. So if I said that, and I heard it, I stopped. So if I said that, and you say the sentence or the line again without the word that's actually what I do with my clients. I listen, I say, okay, you just said it a while ago, let's back up. And eventually, you start hearing it yourself. Somebody else doesn't have to tell you that it's there. And what happens after that is that you hear it in your head before it comes out of your mouth. And then it goes. But it takes time and it takes attention. For some people, it's not that important. I recommend that you try to eliminate it, because it's like if you were writing an email and you had errors in there, or a letter, you wouldn't just cross it out and send the email with those errors, would you? You would delete. You would try to give the very best presentation of the thoughts in writing. And I think eliminating the space fillers helps us to give the best presentation of our thoughts in speaking. Mutual Admiration Society, by the way. Any other questions? Go ahead.
All right, so good afternoon again, everyone. I'm Paula-Anne. So what are... You didn't hear that. You did not hear that. So what are some recommendations or tips that you can give to persons such as myself who at times during the middle of our presentation, the nerves and the jitters start to get at you and it kind of takes away from the delivery and the content? What are some strategies that you can tell us to manage that? I listen to Mindful Mornings. However, I would still love to hear the additional tips.
Mindful Mornings is a mental health conversation on Radio Jamaica 94 FM, and we give tips about how to handle anxiety sometimes, depending on the topic. And that anxiety that pops up in the middle of your speech can be handled in that way, because what's happening is that your thoughts are now not on your content anymore. They're all over the place, and you need to bring them back here. Mindfulness and breathing exercises force you to pay attention to your body first, and then helps you to empty your mind of those other thoughts. When you are now paying attention to the breathing or the grounding or whatever else it is, you can now say, okay, thoughts, go to speech, because you've shut down the other conversations. Those exercises work best with preparation. Preparation so that you're comfortable with the content, you've practiced, you've designed it for this audience, so you're not second guessing yourself while you are presenting. So in the moment, mindfulness exercises do work. And if you're blank for just a second, throw a question out to the audience. Tell them to tell you what you think about something. And while they're answering, you, and then you go. You're welcome.